I love therapy, and in fact, I've been going to therapy since I was around 6 years old. Though I talk about therapy a lot and may interview some therapists on the show on occasion, nothing that is said in this podcast should be considered a replacement for therapy. If you are struggling, I urge you to please seek guidance from a therapist because you are absolutely worth it.
Hello, everyone. You are listening to Wine, Dine, and 69, a podcast about dating, relationships, sex, and self-love. I am your host, Rachel Dalton. I'm laughing because I feel like such a mess right now. I'm supposed to be packing to go back up to Michigan for a very lengthy period of time, and that feeling when like you're completely frozen because there's so many things to do and you don't know where to start. That's exactly where I am right now. So after I finish recording this, I'm going to have to actually get started on those things, which is a frightening prospect. Today's intro, I have a really awesome conversation. Awesome. I mean, not like, yay, awesome, but an impactful conversation in the second half of today's episode for my storyteller interview, Kelly. But before that, I'm going to get a little bit personal. As listeners who have been listening for a while know, I am processing a breakup, which is not the most fun thing in the world, but, it is what it is. And I kind of just wanted to talk about, some like mindset things that I've been doing. I was with a friend last weekend and was kind of just talking to her about, the situation. And she said, "You seem so resolved and serene about this. Like, it just seems like you know exactly where you are and, how you feel about things." And I said, yeah, I know who I am. I know what I want. And, I know what I feel. And it's been a journey, but she just was kind of like, what's your secret? What do you do? And I don't know if there's a secret. Every day is its own little mini battle. Whether you're going through a breakup or going through anything else, that's just life, I guess. It's beautiful and terrible and painful and lovely all at the same time. And you have to just kind of embrace all parts of it. But I did tell her, kind of what I've been doing to kind of get me in a positive mindset. So I figured that I would share that with you now. First thing is when I wake up in the morning, before I get out of bed, I think about 5 things that I am grateful for. And then I get up and I do my morning routine, brush my teeth, brush my hair, wash my face, all of that good stuff. And I have a series of affirmations self-love affirmations that I say looking at myself in the mirror. From there, I go up. I am lucky enough to have a roof. So I go up to my roof and I do a morning meditation, just a quick 10-minute thing, just to get me in a good headspace. And then, I kind of go through my day, do my work, try to, focus as much as possible. I have a lot of things moving in my professional life right now. There's a lot of things happening. So, and then, I have my life after work, whether it means going to my tap class, which I did yesterday, or whether, it's studying for the classes that I'm taking or going to get happy hour with friends. When I come back, I try to do some writing, towards the end of the night, just to kind of process. I'm very much a verbal processor. Go figure, she has a podcast. But I also love writing. And so writing has always been a very therapeutic thing for me. And then, I get ready for bed, I say my self-love affirmations again. And then I go back up to my roof and I do another meditation, a nightly meditation. And for that one, I look up at the stars, at the sky. I live in a city, but you can actually still see some of the stars pretty well. So that's actually kind of become one of my favorite parts of my day, is doing that evening meditation. And I usually find I'm in a really good headspace by that point. And then, I come back down to my apartment and I do last minute things that I need to do. I find that I like to do a little 5-minute tidy of my apartment before going to bed, just so that I can wake up, with my space neat. I need my space to be neat or else my brain won't be neat, but I know that could just be a me thing. And so I do the affirmations, the self-love affirmations again in the mirror as I'm getting ready for bed. And then, when I'm in bed, I think about 5 things that I am proud of myself for, 5 things that, I did today that I am proud of myself for. Just giving myself a little pat on the back. So, and then, as I'm falling asleep, I just try to think about, positive memories. I also have started playing some subliminal messaging with waves and self-love affirmations. So I don't know. It's definitely made a difference. I'm really happy with these adjustments that I've made, these changes that I've made. And, this podcast is about sex, relationships, dating, self-love, but, the self-love piece is really important. And when you are single, again, I think that's the first time that I've said that, after, going through a breakup, especially one that has lasted for so long, you really do need to put that focus back on you and on self-love. And so, that's been really important for me in this process. And I'm really happy with where I've ended up. I'm really proud of myself and with the progress that I've made and the things that I'm doing for my life and for my future. Just everything kind of has started to fall into place a little bit. And that doesn't mean that every day is sunshine and roses and rainbows, but life is good. So I guess that's what I have. So if you're going through something similar, or you just want to work on your self-love, those are, I guess, my little tips and tricks. That's what I have. So it's really important. It's easy to kind of get lost in sadness, but I think it's really important to reach out to the people you love, do the things that you care about, and find your inner peace and love from your center, from inside. I also do yoga a few times a week, and I work out, and I know that's so weird to say I work out, but I do have a gym and I have started doing workouts, which is just a bizarre thing to do, but even more bizarre to actually say out loud for those who know me. So that's what I've got for you. I'm going to switch gears to talk about my interview today. I interview Kelly. We talk about her motherhood journey, from deciding that she wanted to have a baby to infertility, and then, on to actually having a baby, and it's a really life-altering experience that happened to her, a near-death experience. So, content warning, we're going to talk about pregnancy. So if that's a sensitive topic, you might want to steer clear. We're going to talk about infertility, same thing there. And, we're going to talk about traumatic experience, giving birth in a hospital. And there is going to be some graphic imagery that is described. So just use caution when proceeding forward. Decide if it's the right listen for you. I do want to say that I am really honored to stand witness to Kelly's story. I found out after we recorded that I am the first person that she told her story to in full, which is just, I'm so honored. That's why I do this storyteller segment, right? Like, I want to hear where people come from, what people have experienced, and amplify it. So, yeah, everybody, I hope you're doing well. I know with the holidays coming up, it's a weird time of year where everything is moving really fast and yet it's kind of slow at the same time, and you're stressed out, but you're also, spending time with family, and maybe that's a negative for you. Maybe it's a positive, but I'm sending you so much love and support and wishing you peace. And without further ado, I am going to cut to a quick commercial break, and then please enjoy. Please enjoy Kelly. She's a lovely soul, but I hope that you really take something away from this conversation that I have with Kelly.
Calling all citizens of Halcyon City. The newest generation of heroes are now painting the pages of Delinquent Comics, an actual play podcast in the game world of Masks, a new generation. Join our heroes as they struggle to build a team and save the city. Can Titan escape the shadow of his mentor burnout? Is Soul's overwhelming power too dangerous to control? Will Muse discover her past? And how does White Knight stomach all those strange snacks? Listen to Delinquent Comics to find out at allportsopen.com, Spotify, iTunes, or wherever podcasts are found. New issues become available to all citizens every other Monday.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I am super excited to talk to this guest today. I've actually gotten to know her a little bit over a couple weeks ago. So, Kelly, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me today.
I'm really excited to talk to you. I think that I was actually talking to some friends today, and I was like, I'm going to record a podcast episode with a woman about motherhood. And they were like, oh, okay. And then, I was like, yeah, because this relationship's about sex and relationships and dating and self-love. And I think that, sometimes sex leads to babies and sometimes it doesn't, right? And we're going to talk about that a little bit, but self-love is also a really important part of being a mother,
It is, absolutely.
So, why don't you just kind of start off telling me a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Well, my name is Kelly, and I am a very proud mother of a 3.5-year-old son, whose name is Maddox, and the light of my life. Yeah. I'm also a wife to my husband, and we've been married about going on 6 years.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Were you together for a while before that?
We met, and then it took us a year and a half to get married from the day we met to the day we got married. So it was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty quick, but not like lightning speed.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about your motherhood journey today, and also a really scary experience that you had in the midst of that motherhood journey. So if you kind of just want to start off telling me about when you decided in that moment that you wanted to be a mom, what those conversations looked like, and as much as you want to share. You don't have to share anything that makes you uncomfortable.
Okay. Yeah. So when I met Lee, let me go back. Before I met Lee, I was 35 and kind of resigning to the fact that maybe I'm not going to be a mom. Maybe it's not in the cards for me. And I started finding peace in either direction that went, because my goal at that point was to find love and not so much to find someone to have children with.
Sure.
And so I was open to where the relationship could take us. And so it could be, I could find the love of my life. And let's say we wanted to travel around the world, and that's, and have travel as the priority and keep ourselves at the center of the relationship. I was okay with that. Or if I met the right person and he really wanted to have children, then if I had the right person, I would be willing to do that. So I was really open in the direction. And it just so happened that with Lee, he really was, he's 10 years older than me. So he was 45, and he was at a place in his life that he saw himself one day being a father. So,
Okay.
so I got on board with that.
Yeah, it really is. I think that a lot of people, and you and I talked about this, prior when we were getting to know each other, but a lot of people have this idea that you need to have a very strong idea about whether you want kids or whether you don't want kids. And I think that we need to normalize the fact that like some people are just willing to kind of see what happens in their life and who they end up with. And yeah, I think it's really normal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hopefully it is normalized. And, for a lot of women, there is a pressure from their family that they want them to have children, or maybe they know at an early time in their life that motherhood is for them. But there's some of us that take a little bit more convincing and kind of live their life a little bit differently. And so there shouldn't be a pressure. Ideally, there shouldn't be a pressure for someone to have children, because let me tell you, it is a game changer. You have to be completely invested and want this, because it will challenge you in ways you can't even imagine or prepare for.
Sure. Yeah, my dad always told me, he was like, life didn't change that much after I got married. He was like, after we had kids, though, that's when life changes.
He is telling the truth, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you decided that you wanted to have a baby.
Yeah, I was open to it. And so we tried, and with trying, I easily got pregnant. And so it wasn't long before here I am pregnant. It's like, okay, here we are. And so, but I had issues. So I remember, I'd never been pregnant before. I didn't know what to expect. And then all of a sudden I was spotting early on in my pregnancy, and I never had pregnancy signs like, throwing up or nausea or morning sickness.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I never had that, and that should have probably been an indicator, but it just wasn't on my radar. And eventually the pregnancy didn't take.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's really tough.
Yeah, it was a shock. And, when they're saying I went to the hospital and I'm bleeding, and they're like, this isn't, your pregnancy is failing. And it's just a hard pill to swallow, because it's an emotional thing. Like, you're losing something that you ideally wanted.
Right.
But as a woman, we go through that. Our body it goes through a lot to end a pregnancy. And I didn't realize that. So it's a much more emotional, but it's also very physical for a woman at heart in that way as well.
Interesting. Yeah, I think a lot about the emotional part of things. And every part of pregnancy is really tough on a woman's body. And I know we're definitely going to get into that a little bit too.
Yeah.
But that's really devastating.
Yeah, it's shocking, I would say, to see your body, your dreams are essentially just crashing before you. And it's not very pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, after you lost the pregnancy, how did that kind of change the dynamic of how you were thinking about being a mother?
I just went through the emotions and the sorrow, and it was depressing because it's such a loss. And so the thing that got me excited again, or out of that funk of mourning that loss, was trying again and having hope. I guess it's the hope that really just kept me going. Yeah. And luckily for us, I was able to get pregnant again. It wasn't maybe 3-4 months before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it wasn't long. So yeah. So, I mean, it takes, once you get pregnant again, now you're reinvigorated with more hope. And so it's more palatable to overcome that loss. Although that loss still stays with you, and, you know, the dreams of what that child could have been, you know, are still there, but now that darkness gets replaced with more light.
Yeah. No, I can definitely see that.
Yeah. So the story though goes, that pregnancy, that one didn't take either. Actually that one, was even more difficult because I got called in. I was getting testing done just to make sure I was pregnant. And then when you go get the testing done, at least at my hospital, they would check how pregnant you were, and basically how many, I guess, pregnancy hormones are in your blood. And so they can,
okay. That's a thing.
Yeah,
okay.
it's a thing. Yes. And so, and they can do it after every few days to see if you're going up at the rate that's normal. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And so they had me do this, and they called me. I would come in, they did my blood testing. And then I remember like I came home. No, I went to go give myself lunch, and, I was sitting at this diner by myself, and I got this phone call, and they're like, Kelly, you know, we need you to come back to the hospital. You know, there's an issue with your pregnancy. We believe that you're having an ectopic pregnancy.
Oh, gosh.
So, yeah. And I'm like, what's an ectopic pregnancy? I just want to eat my pancakes. So they basically said that this is a life-threatening situation. I'm like, I have to come right now. And they're like, yes, we need you now. And because with my levels, they were still showing me pregnant, and they were increasing, but it wasn't increasing to the rate that it should have been, which indicates ectopic. So they needed me to come in, do an ultrasound, really verify that my baby was not in my uterus, but rather it was somewhere else, perhaps my fallopian tube. But they did that. They couldn't find where the pregnancy was. Actually, they couldn't find it in the fallopian tube or in the uterus. It was somewhere else, that was undiscovered by the technician. So they had to abort it through giving me 2 shots, one in each butt cheek of a drug that cancer patients use. And so I was like, this is too much. Like, this isn't enough to process. And so, you know, I called.
Yeah, you were like 10 minutes ago, I was eating my pancakes.
Yeah. And now I'm like, it's like a nightmare. And so I just told them I need, I'm going to need something for my anxiety. And so I didn't want to be coherent.
Right.
So, you know, bless their hearts, they gave me something that really allowed me to just sleep through the whole thing. And I was admitted through the night. My husband was by my side, and I don't remember much, just, you know, being uncomfortable and hating the moment. I just wanted to pass and sleep through it and get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah. It's, you know, some people it's really easy. You have sex, you fall in love, you have sex, you get pregnant, and you have a baby, but it's not. I was learning that my road wasn't exactly looking like what normal seemed to be for so many other women.
And what was that like? I mean, I hope that you weren't hard on yourself, but I also absolutely understand that impulse.
Yeah, I guess at that point, it's kind of like, oh, okay, what what's going on here? A big question mark was over my head, um, and so we at that point, I went to my gynecologist, my regular gynecologist, and was like, look, this has happened twice. And she's like, this woman from Brooklyn or New Jersey, like, honey, you got to go see a specialist. You're 35. It's happened twice now. And so she really pushed me to now go see a fertility specialist just to get some testing and see like what's going on here. And just to, instead of just keep trying and doing this and going through this, let's get some answers and see if there's a workaround here. And so that's what we did. We found a fertility specialist. They did every test you can imagine. And luckily, everything turned out fine. Everything was in place and in order and looking good. Other than I had a fibroid, they're like, we can worry about that later. It shouldn't, be too much of an issue right now. So we'll tell you when you ovulate. We're going to follow you through this pregnancy. And when you ovulate, we want you to have sex and hopefully you'll get pregnant and we'll figure it out. And so that's what we did.
Does that put pressure on a relationship or like make sex less fun by any chance?
Yes, it does. It's like the doctor said, right now we need to do it. It's just kind of like a job at that point. It's kind of like it took like normally you're just in the moment, not thinking about anything and just enjoying each other versus like, okay, we need to do this right now, regardless if you're in the mood or not. If we want this to happen. Yeah. So it is very different context.
Imagine
for
so.
Sure. A little bit of a pressure.
I always think about that. I think about how like people, I think that many people, probably not all, but many people were raised, like, oh, don't have sex until you're married or until, you're in a committed relationship, blah, blah, blah. And then I think about, so I'm like 31 and people around me are getting pregnant. And my first impulse is always on purpose because I haven't grown out of that mindset that like, like we're not 16 anymore, like it's socially acceptable to get pregnant now. And it's just, I think that some people have to wrap their mind around that idea. But I think even more so, when you're working towards having a baby, I think that that transition must be just really weird.
It is, because I've always used birth control and I was always, let's go to college, let's get the career. I need the right man. I want to be married. And that was something that was a end goal for me before the children. And I live far away from my family, so I knew I needed that stability. I wouldn't be able to fall back on the family to support me. So yeah, I'm with you. It's just a completely different mindset of between having like avoiding pregnancy for so many years versus like that switch of, let's try. And
the minute you get married. Yeah. It's just like, oh.
Yeah. And the pressure of the age, and I always thought that things just work out. Things in the end just usually work out. And there's so many women and accounts of women that have gotten pregnant in their early or mid 40s, and it'll fall into place. I just thought like it'll figure itself out. It always does.
Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't.
And sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which brings me back to when getting pregnant. So when the fertility specialist said, do it, we did it. And I found out on a vacation the day before my birthday, I am pregnant. And I just felt like I had such a safety net with the fertility specialist and testing me, testing my husband, sperm quality, like we're good. And we have the safety net. They're following us. And it was like the day before my birthday, we're in Hawaii. It was magical.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And
you're like, it has to work out. This time it has to.
Right. And when we were in Hawaii, there was all these rainbows, and I discovered there's a thing called rainbow pregnancy or rainbow baby. And that's when,
Oh.
the rainbow baby is the baby that comes after you've had a loss. So after there's been rain and a storm, that's
Oh.
the pregnancy loss. The rainbow baby is the rainbow after the storm. So
Oh,
I'm
wow.
seeing
Okay.
I'm seeing all these rainbows around me. I'm a day before my birthday. I'm like, this is it. And so I just felt good about the whole thing. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, but um, for that one, I hate to say it. I hopefully this story turns around. I do have a happy ending, I promise. But I lost that child as well, and that one was was the most disturbing of them all.
Oh,
Um,
gosh.
and because my husband and we had gone out to a nice dinner, and on the way home, I started getting cramps, and
Mhm.
I thought it was like the crab legs that I ate for dinner, and um, I didn't realize that those were contractions. I was only 9 weeks and 2 days pregnant.
Oh, gosh.
I remember it to the T, and I was so like very aware. I don't drink any caffeine. I was just prenatal vitamins, anything that could cause any harm to a pregnancy or to this pregnancy. I just kept at bay. I was very clean, and so I don't know. I just thought that I had these. The food didn't agree with me, but as the night progressed, like throughout the night, I mean, I was in so much pain. I'm like, honey, you got to call the doctor. But I wasn't bleeding like I had
Mhm.
in the past. This was totally different. And then I ended up going to the bathroom, just sitting on the toilet, like, so what is wrong with me? Thinking I had to go to the bathroom. And these pains just kind of came in waves. And by the time I got up, I don't know, 5 minutes later, I just glanced in the toilet, and I
Mhm.
see a tiny baby at the bottom of the
Oh.
toilet. And
Oh my God.
it was like a gummy. It was a tiny baby, but you could tell this is a baby. The limbs were starting to form, and I just scooped it up. Was like, oh my God, this is our baby. It was devastating because the other times I never saw the baby. I just saw blood,
Right.
and
Right.
that it's as hard as that is to see, but to just see your baby, and this, like, it shows even at 9 weeks that
Yeah.
it's
Wow.
still a baby, like it's just tiny. um so that was and then the blood came after that, but it that one shook me to the core. Shook me to
I
the
can
core.
imagine.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But we had the fertility specialist, and so I called them, and I put my little baby, and I make jewelry, and I had some extra jewelry boxes, and put the baby in a jewelry box, and um, the my fertility doctor was able to take it and test it, so we can really understand what's happening.
Right. Right. Wow. Yeah. What did they come back with that?
Well, I'm so happy they were able to test, because I have a science degree. I love facts. I love information. And so they came back with that. The baby was a boy, but also that it was missing two chromosomes. So
Mm.
it was really showing us that it was not sustainable for life. This wasn't some punishment from God of
Right.
something that I've done in my past. There was something that's genetically wrong, and they attributed it to because of my age, and that nothing else was wrong with me. It was that my egg quality was just diminishing, and that's why I was losing these babies.
Yeah, but you like weren't even that old.
35, right? And
Yeah,
I feel like I'm
just,
18. I'm so immature.
Yeah.
I don't feel old at all in 35, but for me, yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I feel like life is just so cruel to like men can their sperm the sperm count might be less, but they still have sperm it's active and can do the job at like 80 years old if they really wanted to. And
yeah, right.
It's just so cruel and unfair.
Right, I agree.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. As tough as that was, you know, like I said in the beginning, I do have a very happy ending.
Yeah, but there's more hardship even between. I mean,
yeah, it kind of builds up.
Yeah, there's a huge crescendo. I mean, you almost lost your life, and that's the big thing, right?
Absolutely. That's for sure. For sure.
Did you try did you have more losses between this third one and that, or okay?
Well,
so that is the next step.
So I lost 3 babies. That's my loss right there. And and from there it was told that it would be best for me to do IVF. And that way they could, give me all these medications that you inject yourself with, and it makes you over ovulate, and you get all these follicles open, and so you can get all these eggs, and then we can test the eggs, and all the good ones we will freeze, and then when on your next cycle, then we can insert you with the good eggs. It sounded
okay. Oh, that's how that works. Go figure. I had no
idea. So that's how that works. But it's with a hefty price tag and with no guarantee.
That part I knew.
Yeah. So that's kind of like that really freaked me out. That really put a lot of pressure on me for this to work.
Right.
That's a lot of money, and I felt like I can't. I'm not really in control. My body is
right.
Not my mind, not my will. It's and I don't know what it's capable of. So far, it's shown me it's not. But I have hope. Let's do it. Let's try. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a trooper. Oh my gosh.
Trooper, crazy. It was really the hope that keeps me alive, because when I just thought about all the losses, it really just made me dark, and I would have every reason to give up and to say, "Hey, I'm not built for this," and move on. But I just that hope, that opening in a window, like maybe this could work. I just followed that hope. That's what kept me going.
Wow. And again, you do have a happy ending. I have to keep saying it, but you do have a happy ending. You're here and you have a beautiful son. So
thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And so with the IVF, we found out that, with the results, I was able to get 10 eggs, and they call you, and basically they tell you every day, or it was like every other day. No, I think it was every day, that how many fertilized, and then how many up to day 5 were of good quality and have hatched, I believe, to what's called the blastocyst stage. And so that's what you want. Okay. You want them to fertilize, and then they up to day 5 is blastocyst. That's what you want. And so I was getting a call every day. I'm like, okay, you started with 10 today, overnight, now we have 6. Okay. And they're like, don't worry, that's expected. Not every one of them is going to, become viable. But every day I was getting like more numbers going. Okay, next day I have 3. And then the next day I had one, and one that made it to blastocyst. So I had one egg. So I'm like, wow, okay. So, and we paid to have that one genetically tested before it got implanted to me. And so they did the testing, and I get the call from my doctor, and they're like, it's not viable. It's,
oh my gosh.
yeah, I don't even know what was wrong with it. Probably another issue with the chromosome. And I was crushed. I was, my husband, he's the one that paid the $20,000 for it. And I just felt like I just let him, his dreams down. His $20,000 are crashed. My dreams are done. Like that one was rough. That was we were on our way to Napa for a little getaway. And I was on the way there, and it was raining. It was just like, oof. It was tough. That was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that would be my final loss. If you want, I didn't technically get implanted and lose the baby, but I lost the IVF.
Well, it was another moment of hope that was, stripped away.
Yeah.
And that in of itself is a loss.
It is. Yeah. And then, so the doctor's like, you know what, Kelly, why don't you just, as soon as you get home Monday, I want you to come to my office. And so that gave me hope again. Because even in the midst of all this, he wants me to talk to him. He does this for a living. He must have something up his sleeve. As another option. Maybe there's some trials going on. I don't know what it is, but he still wants, he's not saying don't give up. He's saying come into the office and let's have a talk about this. And so, okay. Let's, again, that hope just kept stringing me along. No one has so far said stop.
Right.
And until I got that news, I guess I wasn't. But when we came into his office, he said, Kelly, if you really want a child, I think that you need to get a donor egg. Mm-hmm. And that one, I couldn't wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember walking out of there and like, that wasn't the plan. And, it's hard to, even though I didn't grow up saying, oh, I wanted a baby so badly, but you would think like, even if you had a child, it would be like your mini me and you could see her smile, and he was basically saying, if I ever wanted to be a mom, I couldn't have that.
Your own genetic. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't like that. But he got me in touch with a woman who was in my shoes and asked if, she could call me and I could ask her questions. And, and I was really worried that if I did this, like, how do you get over it? Like, are you able to bond with this child? Is that different? And I was really hung up on like this child not looking like me and the questions from society. Like, everyone asks, oh, your baby, or who does your baby look like? Or like, I don't want to lie, but I also I got stuck on that. And she helped me through that. And also a therapist. I went and spoke with a therapist, and she helped me realize that when I thought about all this loss, I really just felt terrible. But when I still thought about the prospect of being a mom, even though that looked differently, it lit me up. And so I just decided I'm going to follow that light because it's too painful to just sit in all this sorrow and loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I I'm so glad that you had that support and that, again, that there was somebody who was willing to share their own story and talk to you about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of why I'm here today, because someone helped me by sharing themselves, um, and hopefully I can be that for someone else, even just one person.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, well, I know. I'm just like, oh gosh, it's just heart wrenching, and I know that like that call to be a mother, though I don't have it, I know that how strong it is. And I know so many people who have, had losses, and it's just to see, it's devastating. It's absolutely devastating.
Yeah, it is. And it's often not talked about either. Like, I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of people don't know what to do with, um, when people talk about such a loss. And a lot of times people suffer quietly because, most people want to hear about what's going good in your life. Tell me
Right.
something good. And to share, it takes a lot to for someone to hear you. And it's grief as well. It's a lot of grief. And a lot of, when you're feeling really sad, you don't want to bring other people down either. You want to get yourself to a place where you can go out in life
Right.
and
Right.
be well. But um, yeah, it doesn't get talked about a lot, I don't think, enough. People
Yeah.
talk about pregnancy announcement. You'll see in a pregnancy announcement, but you won't ever hear about, oh, I lost my pregnancy,
Right.
where people could come around you and surround you with love and help lift you up. It just seems like that only happens for women that, where it goes successfully.
Yeah. No, I think that's true, and I think that might be changing, hopefully, a little bit. I have seen a few announcements, announcing a loss, or saying that people are going to be taking a break from social media to deal with that loss. So I hope the tide is shifting, because nobody should have to go through that alone.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's and yeah, that we're not alone. It happens, actually. I believe it's 2 out of every 10 pregnancies
Yeah.
fail.
I
Um,
think most women at some point have a miscarriage. I know that my mother had one.
yeah, and yeah, no, it's just, it's a sad, tough topic, and a lot of people don't know what to do with it. So
Yeah.
if people could just hear that person and let them know, like, I'm here for you, and advice isn't really necessary. But just knowing you're heard and means a lot.
Definitely. Yeah, you decided to move forward, right?
I did. And so I took the lead on this, and my husband, bless his heart, just kind of stayed in the back and let me drive this. I was like, you know what? The doctor gave me his website that had donors available on it. So I made an account and just looked at them like, who are these people anyway? And I don't know, like, let me just check these people out that are willing to do this. And I don't know. None of them looked like me. And I guess that's really what I wanted. Like, if it can't be me, can it just be kind of someone like me? And,
I
you
understand that
know,
impulse, definitely. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm pretty tall. I'm 5'8", and I have blue eyes, and uh, maybe blonde hair, but okay, that we don't need blonde hair, we could do brown hair. And I kept changing my criteria, and I just kept finding all these, like, women that just weren't a good fit for me. No one rang like, okay, this is it. Until I went into a different agency, egg donor agency, and on the front page I saw this woman who was 5'7", and she had just like a big warmth to her. She just looked kind and had these beautiful blue eyes, blonde hair, and educated. And I was like, this is just, she's it. It just felt right. And, we got lucky. We were able to get her. She was wanted and by a few couples, and we were able to get a few of her eggs.
Wow.
And yeah, and so it was kind of interesting to it was like internet dating. I met my husband on the internet. I met my husband looking through profiles, and yet here I am again on internet dating for the genetic mother of my unborn child. So
yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's interesting. But it worked out. We got her.
That's amazing. I love that. It just seems like, there were so many things that just lined up kind of when they needed to.
Yeah, I agree. And she was my first pick, the only one that even seemed like I would even consider after looking at thousands of women. I was like, just no one stuck out to me, and she did, like a little star. And so it just worked out that we got her when we did. And we were able to, we bought 5 eggs, and all 5 of them fertilized with my husband.
Oh, amazing.
I know. So, I mean, here the tides are changing, and my luck is finally turning around. And so when they implanted the embryo, but I should take a step back. Between the time of getting her and being implanted, I needed to get rid of that fibroid, because we didn't want any chance if the embryo implanted on the fibroid, it would not be a viable pregnancy. So they wanted a very clean slate in my uterus. So we did a surgery to remove it. Unfortunately, the first surgery didn't fully take, and the doctor wasn't satisfied. So we had to go in and do it again for the second time, just to really make sure it was gone. So we did that, and I had to give myself a few months for that to fully heal before then implantation. And
sure, okay.
But once it was time for implantation, I believe that was December 16th of 2016, it took. And I found out I couldn't wait. They said, don't take at home pregnancy tests. But on Christmas Day, on December 25th, I took a test in the morning. I'm like, come on, have my favor, be in my favor. Let me be pregnant. And I was pregnant. Put that pregnant. Yeah. And I put that in a box and wrapped it up and gave it to my husband Christmas morning.
Oh, oh my gosh, that's so nice.
Yeah, it was cool, very cool. And luckily that pregnancy, I was able to remain pregnant up until full term before I delivered.
Wow. Yeah, and that's its own thing, right? I mean, let's get into it. You went through a lot getting pregnant, and then once you were pregnant, delivering was also really difficult. Tell us about that.
So I was 40 weeks, and my doctor was like, we're not going to induce you unless you're 1 day after 40 weeks. So we had a day of planned for induction because I wasn't showing signs of going into labor. So, but the day before, I was going to get my hair washed because one of the complications of my pregnancy though was I was very swollen, so swollen. My hands hurt. I had carpal tunnel, and my feet were swollen. And so I needed to go have someone wash my hair because I couldn't feel my fingertips. So I was going to get my hair washed, and on my way in, my water broke. So, but that didn't stop me from getting my hair done.
You're like, there's going to be pictures when this baby gets here.
Right? And I thought that it would be hours before. I mean, I wasn't thinking clearly. I probably shouldn't have done that, but I did. And by the time we got to the hospital, I was 5 centimeters dilated. You need to get to 10. And they're like, yeah, girl, here's some pain reliever, and we'll set you up with the epidural here when you get a little further along. And so it would take maybe 5-6 more hours before I would start active labor. And, I pushed that baby out. I pushed that baby out with the help of an epidural. I will say I have no shame in that. And,
oh gosh. Yeah. My mom was in labor with me for like 45 hours. I'm like, Mom, like if you didn't get the epidural, I don't know. I have no idea how people do it without it.
I don't either. Maybe they think that they can handle it. But I already knew, like, I've been through enough in life. Like, let me just have this baby healthy and without pain.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't need to prove anything to anyone. Or myself. I'm okay.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that epidural. You're allowed to push that button every 20 minutes to get some more of that pain reliever. I was on time. So the baby arrived. My son was born around, I think it was 4 a.m. And when he came out, vaginal birth, like I said, and he was just placed right on my chest, and we just had a moment of looking at each other like, oh, he looked like he was trying to like look at me and like, who are you? And I'm like, my baby. And it was just such a magical moment. I mean,
the culmination of all of that hope.
The culmination of everything. Like, I'm finally here. All of that was worth it, because look at where I'm at. I got this beautiful baby in my hands, in my arms. And we got to I got to hold him for 30 minutes while, the doctors do whatever they do after you have the baby. But after about 30 minutes, the doctor was like, hey, we need to release the baby's placenta. It hasn't contracted and released yet. I'm in like love with my baby. So, okay. I don't know what that means,
like,
but
do whatever you need to do. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And so I just see him. I mean, I still had my epidural, so I wasn't feeling any pain. And so he put his hand in me to help, feel around, see where the placenta was at, and manually release it. And I just remember like seeing him grimace, and then everything got fuzzy. Like, I knew I was going to pass out. And I just remember thinking I wanted to tell someone to take the baby, because I didn't know if the baby was going to fall out of my arms, because I'm passing out. But I didn't have enough time. I just passed out. And I mean, I remember it seemed like 1 second later, but it was actually 20 minutes later that I woke up. I had coded, is what they call it, a code blue. And when I became unresponsive, because when the doctor pulled on the placenta, there was an artery that was attached that he wasn't aware of, and he severed it by pulling it, and I hemorrhaged.
Yeah. And that's called placenta. I think I have a note here. It's called placenta serratia?
Placenta accreta.
Accreta. Why do I have a C here? That's so weird. Placenta accreta. Wow.
Placenta accreta. So when the placenta just grows too deeply into the uterus and creates a bloodline. And I was undiagnosed. The doctors weren't aware that I had this condition, and that's why it's a deadly disease. A lot of times it's caught in ultrasounds, and unfortunately, even though I was a high-risk pregnancy, I had more ultrasounds than for 5 people. It wasn't on anyone's radar.
Wow.
And at that moment, the doctor didn't know that's what I had. Maybe he did in his head, I don't know, but it wasn't told to me until after pathology that that's exactly what I had. But I just remember waking up like 20 minutes later, and I open my eyes and I hear someone say, her eyes are open. And I look around and I see like 20 doctors just swarming my room in like chaos, but organized chaos. And what they did was they ordered blood, and I needed 6 units to become revived. At that moment, my son's in the corner in like a little heated box to keep him warm. My husband's just like holy, like looked like he just saw a ghost. Like
Yeah, beside himself. Yeah.
what the hell is going on? Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So you were
it
only
was,
gone for 20 minutes, like passed out.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm saying I passed out, but I went into what's called hypovolemic shock. And that's when I was 60 over 40 with my,
Wow.
and my blood pressure, that was my blood pressure. And then my pulse was racing high, like, I don't know, off the charts. And I was very close to heart attack. But I didn't. I didn't. I teetered the edge. I coded. I was on the edge of death. But they got me back.
Oh my gosh, I have goosebumps.
Yeah.
Whew, yeah, and I mean, like, pregnancy, it's scary. I mean, it's very scary. It's women have been doing it since the beginning of time, but I think, isn't it true that the number of people who die in childbirth is higher in the US than in any other country?
Yes. Any other developed country, the U.S. is number one for child maternal death.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder why that is.
I did some research, and it looks to be a correlation between the amount of C-sections that are happening. So things that, so the incidence has increased with the number of C-sections. So basically, and I've never had a C-section before, by the way, but I did have that fibroid surgery. So, and I did have IVF, which is also a risk factor. So anything that can scar your uterus then creates scar tissue, and scar tissue is sticky. And if the placenta attaches to that sticky scar tissue, it can create, I guess, a bloodline.
Got it.
And that's where things go awry. And so I'm thinking here, I'm at the finish line, but really, this is the biggest, all the losses that I had up until this point. This was the biggest emotional obstacle of dealing with my own mortality, perhaps, and the days that I would go fighting for my life, in the ICU, the machines I was tied to, the wheeling in and out of surgeries. And not knowing, and hearing the concern on my doctor's voice, not knowing if what to do or what's causing this, how to stop it, and me asking, "Am I going to make it?" And I just hear him like, "We need more blood. We need more blood now," and like this, the concern that this is serious. I didn't know if I was going to make it, and I don't frankly think they did either. But ultimately, I was in the hospital in the ICU for 3 nights, and I had 3 surgeries. The 2 were unsuccessful in stopping the bleed, but the final one, which saved my life, was just doing a hysterectomy. Getting that uterus out was able to stop the bleed, and so. And just, I'm thankful for my life, for sure. And my will to live for my son that I haven't even bonded with yet, was high, but it was the, like, what the fuck just happened to me?
Right. It all happened so fast. You didn't really have time to process it.
Yeah.
I mean, you barely even got to hold your baby.
Right. and here I am, and I can't even move my arms. I can't get out of bed. The doctors don't know if I'm going to live. It just, it was like a theme of just completely being out of control. And I have no say in this. I'm just at the mercy of my body and these doctors. And that was something I still deal with, I'd say.
Yeah.
Just to kind of try to figure out like, what just happened to me, and why am I here? Why me? Like, why am I such a failure as a woman? Why can't just something go normal?
Right. Right. And you, now's a good time to mention, you're writing a book about this experience. And has that been helpful in processing that?
It has. It really has. I believe in wanting to take something dark and painful and wanting to turn it into art and just to kind of set it free. And it has been helpful. But there's, I'm almost completed with it, but I'm not, and I have to get through, really diving in. I just want to make sure I do the story justice and, don't leave anything out.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, it's an incredible story. I mean, and it sounds like one of my questions is like, how has the experience changed your relationship? How has it changed your relationship with yourself? And how have you taken care of yourself through the course of coming to terms with this, while being a new mother, I might add.
Right. My husband, bless his heart, really had to step up because I couldn't be the caretaker like I wanted to be. I had to really take care of myself and allow him to lead and hire a nurse to help him or have his family come in and help and to care for our son while I, recuperated. And so I'm really thankful that he did that. And, it also irritated me, that everyone else was getting the first of my son. And, when I was starting to, when I'm starting to get out of bed and wanting to hold him, people are like, oh no, he likes to be held like this, or he likes to be fed like that. And it's like, how are you telling
it's my
me
baby?
That's my baby? And it was I think it cut a little bit deeper because this baby's not genetically mine, and I have that insecurity. And I want to be. Don't tell me about my baby. So that was interesting to get through, but it made its challenges with my husband. Me being emotional, and I was diagnosed with PTSD.
Of course, yeah, that makes sense.
And having nightmares and, just angry. Like I went through all these emotions, and it's not pretty, but I also wanted to be like, just right there, to be a happy mom for my son in the very beginning, but I was dealing with like all this emotion. So it trialed us, but it also made us stronger in the end. Knowing that he was there and how he really stepped up to the plate, but it wasn't always pretty, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I mean, bodies have a really hard time recovering after pregnancy and childbirth as it is. I mean, let alone all of the subsequent surgeries that you had to go through.
Right. Yeah. But I would say, while it was physically hard, it doesn't compare to the emotional is even more so. The emotional scars. I don't feel any physical pain today. I mean, I'm 3.5 years out. I probably didn't after, I don't know, 6 months maybe. But it's the emotional scars, like trying to figure out, like, you see other people, like you walk down the aisle at Target and you see, oh, what do I need anything in this aisle? And I saw like the women's hygiene aisle, and I was like, oh, maybe I need pads. And I'm like, oh no, you don't you're never going to get your
Right.
period again. And then you're like, oh, kind of reliving in that, like, oh yeah. And then I would see a pregnant woman and I'd get jealous.
Yeah.
And even though I'd been pregnant, I'd like, I'll never have that again. And just that feeling, or checking out at Target and you hear the, at the conveyor belt, beep, beep, when they scan the item. That
Yep.
reminded me of all the sounds
Yeah.
I heard in the hospital tied to all those machines. So you just get triggered in different ways and you're not even thinking about it. You're like, okay, I'm just gonna have a good day. But then like you see this or you hear that, and then you're like, it takes you right back.
Yeah. 5-minute trip to Target turns into, 4 or 5
Yeah.
triggering experiences in one outing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, okay, mom is not going out for a while.
Yeah. No. Well, I guess like you had this near-death experience. What message would you have for people? Like, what have you learned about yourself? How have you gone forward in your life differently as a result of this experience?
Just how fragile life is. To really, life is sweeter, I would say, after having gone through this, and how precious it is, and how much I am in the moment of knowing, like, gosh, I didn't have to be here right now, and I get to be alive and enjoying this moment. It's just a little sweeter, a little bit more gratitude and appreciation, and ideally none of us would have to go through a near-death experience to really savor
Sure.
something that isn't promised to us or guaranteed to us. But I really am acutely aware of how this can be taken at any moment without any warning. And so it's really made me live just in the moment, and having as much gratitude as I can foster. And that's putting messages uh, of like, you're alive, you enjoy this moment, just so I keep it in the forefront, just so I'm constantly trying to just appreciate everything that I have.
Right.
And being able to
Absolutely.
share this story, how much sweeter is it that I get to share
Yeah.
the story versus just be a statistic.
No, definitely. And I mean, that's so important. And, I, let me know when your book does end up coming out. I can always, rerun this episode as, another reminder that this is out there and it's a story that's really important for people to hear.
Well, I appreciate that, and I will definitely keep you posted. Um,
Yeah, please.
yeah, hopefully sooner than later.
Yes, definitely. Well, Kelly, was there any last things that you wanted to say, about your experience? If you, did want to promo anything at all? Yeah, just any last thoughts?
I do have a women's support group on Facebook called Women's Support Circle, and this is geared for women that may be dealing with infertility or issues, any pregnancy loss, anything around anything that of a loss that can make you feel sad or less as a woman. It's an empowerment circle for women to support each other, and so viewers are welcome to check that out. Women's Support
Beautiful.
Circle. Yeah, and if you go there, and then I will also, you'll be in the loop of when my book comes out, of sharing my story, and hopefully to inspire others to live fully, and despite a lot of bad things happening, you can make some good out of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your vulnerability and for sharing. I know that it can't have been easy, and you were just so incredible and so strong. And it has been an absolute pleasure and an honor to talk to you and to have the chance to amplify your story.
Oh, I greatly appreciate that. And I thank you for giving me the platform and the opportunity to share my story. That means everything to me as well.
Yeah, you are so welcome. And everybody, well, this has been an episode of Wine, Dine, and 69. I'm your host, Rachel Dalton, here with my guest, Kelly. Again, thank you so much for being here today. And until next time, everybody, let's keep talking.